I'm kind of crashing down to like nothingness.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited about it in the same way. But then I'm like, gosh, I have to like hustle and get my work out there. But I have absolutely no desire to hustle.
Yeah. Oh man, Jeff, this was meant to be. We're gonna have a lot to talk about.
Hello and welcome to the Maker Mistaker podcast. The Maker Mistaker podcast is a show about self-discovery and personal growth for awakening artists, designers, and makers of all sorts. Awakening to the deeper sense of who we are and why we're here on this planet. We walk the line between mainstream success advice and lifestyle design to spirituality and other esoteric subjects. I'm your host, Jeff Finley, and this is episode 8. And I've got a very special guest today, two of them actually. Jen Adrian and Omar Nouri of These Are Things. So excited to have them on the show. But before I get to them, before I bring them on, I've got a couple updates. So the first update is my book, Wake Up, The Morning Routine Will Change Your Life, is out now. It's finally out. I think I worked on it for about 9 months, and I'm so stoked to have it out for sale. I've got it available on makermistaker.com/wakeup. And it's been the big project that I've been working on since I left Go Media and since that I've been on my own as a freelancer now. So I'm really excited that that's out, and you can buy it on Amazon or pick it up in a couple of different ebook packages. And the ebook packages have like videos and, you know, like a morning routine quick start guide and all that kind of stuff. So it's a perfect book if you're looking to establish some new habits and kind of use your mornings as a personal growth opportunity, so to speak. So, and then the second update is my new site, basically. I've been going through sort of an identity crisis on what to do with Maker Mistaker and like jefffinley.org. So kind of combining my love for design and art and creativity and the projects I work on, my design and illustration, versus my personal development and growth blog and all that kind of side. So I decided to just say screw it, and I combine both things together. So Maker Mistaker is now sort of my home on the web as my creative work plus my articles and my blog and my podcast. So you can find all of my illustration work, well, the ones I've uploaded so far as of now, up on makermistaker.com. So you can check out my illustration and my design, and I'm currently accepting new clients. So I do a lot of work for bands and independent clothing companies and cool brands that are out there making cool stuff. And so that's the second update. All right, so ready to dive into the show. So Jen, Omar, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up?
Good to see you. So I'm just going to read your bio real quick to kind of give our listeners a sense of who you are. And on your website, it says, These Are Things is a design and illustration duo based in Columbus, Ohio. And These Are Things is an ongoing creative experiment with a simple goal: to make things we love. So that's pretty a short bio. It's like 2 sentences.
Yeah, we've been
cutting and cutting and cutting. We had our previous about page was like this super long behemoth, and we were really trying to finesse it, and we're like, well, what's the core of what we're
we cut it down to its essence, and that was it. That's what made it.
Yep.
Yeah, I bet that's so hard because I like revise my bio almost on a regular basis. Like,
yeah.
My intro to the podcast I rewrote this morning because I'm like, it's different than it was last month. It's different than it was the month before.
Yeah.
And so we're constantly revising, and I think too when we're revising our bios, it's like we're trying to gain more clarity on who we are and like what our authentic truth is and how can we communicate it in the simplest form that's like so other people understand who we are.
Yeah, we labored over those 2 lines for so long.
It's ridiculous.
It's really, really funny. It is, because it's a great way to put it. It's even less about what other people think about us, what we think about ourselves.
Yeah, who am I? I have to answer this question in public, and like I don't know, it's a lot of pressure to get it right, you know?
And it's always changing too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we could start the podcast off with "Who am I?"
God, how long do we have?
Right. I know. So okay. Well, so you guys are design illustration duo, and you guys have been doing a lot of work. You guys spoke at WMC Fest back in 2012, was it?
2013 maybe.
2013.
Oh,
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
yeah.
And I remember you had the room in tears, and there was a standing ovation, and your parents were there, and you guys like wore your heart on your sleeve. And I mean, it sort of set the tone for like the bar for like, okay, if you're gonna give a talk at WMC, you gotta bring the tears and make everyone faint and.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
that's
that
the
was
last
crazy.
time that was the last time you and I really connected. I mean, gosh, to be honest, we barely even got a chance to really talk at the
Yeah.
event. I was so busy with running the event and everything
for
like
sure.
that. And, but you guys were in the midst of a transition from New York back to Columbus. Could you just briefly go into like what you led up to that WMC Fest moment, like, and just kind of give some backstory to those who don't know you?
Yeah, so we met in art school. We'll kind of start there, I guess. And after we graduated, we started making art together.
And we had day jobs. Jen was freelancing. I worked at a cool motion graphics place.
Yeah, and it was, we just did art projects on the weekends together for fun. And kind of to our surprise, one of those projects ended up getting quite a bit of
Traction.
yeah. And we sold a ton of it. It was a modern world map and art print. And we were featured on one blog. This was in February of 2010.
Yeah.
And we sold hundreds in a day, and all of a sudden had this business. And
And about like 9 months, a year later, we're able to quit our full-time jobs
Yeah.
and focus solely on that. And we've been doing that, selling, art online, especially map-themed art for years.
ever since, yeah. And
Wow.
at the point that we were at WMC Fest, gosh, I mean, those few years from 2010 to then, it was kind of a roller coaster.
And that's what the talk was kind of about, all those ups and downs that, every life has, every business has. And we're in the middle of a free fall down. We just moved to New York, and we found it's too expensive to live in New York and run our business back here in Columbus. What else was going on?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
a million things.
Yeah.
Geez, what else? We were in the middle of a lawsuit, kind of like a personal lawsuit that we can, maybe we'll get into that. We've never talked about
Wow.
that before in public.
Yeah.
But that's what took up a lot of time and energy for about
and money.
and money for about 2
Yeah.
years.
And we're it was hard to manage our fulfillment house back here. Things were very, very complicated with that.
Yeah, it was just a lot. It was, those moments when everything kind of at once just implodes, and that's kind of what we were going through.
Yeah. And so we just looked at each other. So the only thing we can do is head back to Columbus, and the easy way to head back to Columbus, we decided we're going to go back to our fulfillment house, put everything in the U-Haul truck we were using to move back from New York to Columbus, and then move that into Jen's parents' basement. And
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, because from 2010 to that point, 2013, we had just seen like all this success, you know, and it wasn't a straight ride up. There were times when it wasn't going so well. And I mean, a million times really when we said, I don't think we're going to make it past this month doing this.
Oh, yeah.
But in 2013, that was August, that summer, that was really when we started to say, I don't really know what we're going to do after this.
Yeah,
This
and
is-
it was, I don't know about the ups and downs. Like the year before, we were at WMC 2012.
Yeah,
And Joseph Hughes talked to us, say, hey, you want to speak next year? We're like, yeah, everything's going so great. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be there to kind of be able to just kind of show how great we're doing. And then from there to another year.
We were like, oh my God, why did we agree to do this?
Yeah.
This is a horrible idea.
Because we're looking at our talk. I mean, we're moving back home
The next week.
the next week. So we were looking at our talk saying, we can't go up there and say, things are going great and we design and illustrate when we knew like in a week we're going to be
living in my parents' house.
and so we knew at that point like we had this opportunity to kind of
Just be real about it.
real about it. And what was it, a couple months before that, we are you familiar with Tess Viglin?
No.
Who else spoke that year? We were at World Domination Summit in Portland. It's Chris Guillebeau's big conference, and Brene Brown spoke that year.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of the general theme. And Tess was a host for an NPR show.
And she was super famous. She had, she still is, but she decided to leave that show and go out on her own and right before she went to speak at the conference, she realized she didn't get that job, and everything was kind of
right, the next hosting job. So her whole talk was about how she had this great career that was so successful, and then she kind of made this leap and totally failed.
And it didn't work out, and everyone was...
It was like, strangely, what happened with our talk at WMC. I mean, we're all stunned that she got up there and said this, that we got to witness this. And standing ovation.
Yeah.
She got a book deal that weekend. I know, perfect. There was an agent in the audience. And
it was really cool, and it was great because it was that kind of moment in time, and that's what we wanted our talk to be, kind of like, because a lot of talks, and we've given a few talks since then, it's less about a moment in time, more about like, you know, this is what I did the last five years, and you could give it this year, give it next year. It's just kind of the same talk.
But with Tessa's talk, it could only happen then. Like she had just found out the prior week that she did not get this job, and so we saw that we had a similar opportunity. That this is only going to be happening at this time.
And that's why I think it was such a cool experience. Like, I mean, how I'm not sure how people felt in the audience, but when we were up there, it was like all I saw was like yellow. It was a very surreal experience. I knew that at that moment, it's the only time that would ever happen.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It was really weird. And going through some of the lawsuit stuff, and I don't know, maybe we'll get into this. We had been very, very private about a lot of things. So it was kind of weird to be up there and be so open.
And
I don't know.
Truly, I think we're all like, it's really funny because in this day and age, we're supposed to share everything on social media and everything. The more sharing there is, the less we're kind of being really open, because you can't be too open because everyone can see it. So it's kind of like weird kind of false openness where everyone's sharing everything all the time, but no one's really talking about
the real stuff.
Stuff.
Yeah, and even when people do talk about the real stuff, there's only so much you can share online, and there's only so much a person who's following can take in.
Exactly.
So they only really get a slice of you anyway, and then they it sort of creates this idea of you for that person, you know?
Right.
They don't really know who you really are.
Right.
Like, but part of it, so much of us as creators, we like put so much of ourselves in our work that that when we do, like for me, I'm way too open. I think I share so much. I share a lot of the stuff I'm going through deeply on my blog and on my podcast, and there's actually some stuff I really want to talk about, but I really need to keep it private because I just have to resist the urge to overshare. And Brene Brown talks about this in her vulnerability talk. It's like people have to earn the right to hear your vulnerability. And sometimes I can almost do that as a default. Like I'll be I'll first meet somebody and I'll like want to just start wearing my heart on my sleeve and getting to the real talk before we even have a chance to get to know each other. And the other person, I just worry too that I'm going to scare them away by being too much, too vulnerable, too open. And I don't know where that desire comes from, but I think it's sort of, you saw it sort of at WMC Fest. It's like this encouragement to be open and transparent. So you guys are now since that talk, how have things progressed for you? Like what's happened since then?
It's actually really funny because when we meet people who have seen the talk and we've seen them like in the couple years after, they're always they're kind of like, so like, did you figure that out? Like,
to get all that sorted out.
And we're like, of course. Like, it's just
life. Like life continues marching on no matter if you're doing well or not doing well. We can't just, lay down in a circle and like kind of die. It's like you got to keep on moving forward. And we did. We were in Jen's parents' basement for a few months. We had, during that time, we were working on that ebook, which is kind of a funny time to be writing an ebook, how to run a creative business when our creative business felt like it was free fall. Yeah.
It was funny.
We got a couple of good partnerships that holiday, and between the book and those partnerships, we were able to take that money and the money we saved, of course, too, from not having to worry about New York rent and not having to worry about the film place. And we ended up moving into an apartment in Columbus, which we still are in, and moving the stuff into a warehouse, a studio.
And by stuff, we mean a full 13-foot box truck full of maps.
I guess after the talk, we never got to that point in the talk. We drove, after that talk that week, we drove it was like a 15-hour drive because like the slowest U-Haul van we've ever had.
It had no AC. It was the middle of August, so we drove the whole way with the windows down. And the cats are in the middle,
so
howling.
loud. Yeah, the cats were losing. I was losing it. Generally, had to take over driving. Like it was like one of those things. Like okay, we'll be back in Columbus at 11 o'clock. It's like well, midnight, 2, 3. As we got to your parents like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning after driving all day.
The sun was coming up.
Yeah, we had to empty the entire U-Haul thing, bring it all in her parents' house, and then sleep for 2 hours, then go over to the fulfillment warehouse, and they filled the truck up again. We're like, how do we have this much stuff?
This was the weird part. Over those few years, when we were using the fulfillment warehouse, we were ordering stuff, making stuff, having it made and shipped directly there. So we didn't actually physically see how much stuff we had there until we showed up with a truck to come pick it up and move it into my parents' basement.
And it was filled top to bottom. We're like, how are we going to get this anywhere?
We were speechless. Like we walked in and saw these pallets of stuff and we were like, oh my God.
Because when we first dropped off our stuff there, it fit in the back of Jen's hatchback. It was like maybe a couple hundred maps.
Yeah. And now it was 24,000 greeting cards. Like how many?
Wow.
Tens of thousands of prints.
Yeah.
It was just packing supplies. So much stuff.
And we had to carry it down 2 levels to that basement, and it was
wild. So we spent really because that was about 2 years ago now. We have spent the last 2 years kind of sorting out that mess. That's how long it's taken.
Yeah.
And really we're just this week finishing up that whole process. So it's actually really good timing that we're talking with you.
Yeah, because another transition kind of period right now.
Yeah. So it's been good though. In that time we've done some dream jobs. We illustrated the cover of How magazine, which was crazy. And
that was cool too, because we got a lot of weird connections through the WMC talk. Because the WMC talk, a lot of people saw it and they said, "Oh, we want to work with them." We actually, that's right, the How magazine one, we were able to speak at Adobe Max,
because of WMC Fest.
Yeah, now we got a few jobs from there. So it's kind of a weird web that kind of works when you kind of just leave it up.
Yeah.
Up to the pates.
Yeah, it was cool, but it's been a crazy 2 years since then. So much has happened.
So you're going through a new transition, and here we are on the Maker Mistaker podcast. So how is that significant for you? I mean, you told me that it's like proper timing.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I feel like we have really been. God, we're always questioning everything, but especially in the last 2 to 3 years, we've been. I don't want to say unsatisfied, but not necessarily feeling totally settled with the work that we're doing, or that we were doing.
Because we first originally started off with this project as being, a creative outlet from our day job. And then when your creative outlet becomes your new day job, it's kind of like, it makes it a lot different.
You're kind of back where you started. Like we started making art for fun so that we weren't working. And now all of a sudden that
art for fun has to be
is work again. And I don't know, we found ourselves like back in this box of
we escaped the box and then we started building a even bigger box or a little bit smaller box to keep ourselves in. We're like, well, we're the map people, or like we're talking about social media. Well, is this tweet on brand? Is this
right? We're the happy, we're going through a really hard time personally, but we have to be
these cutie faces,
cute map people. It was hard, and it got harder and harder as the years went on, and we started wondering, like, is it me? Is it you? Is it that we can't work together? Is it that I'm sure you've run into something similar where you're just not feeling it anymore, and you don't really know why.
Yeah. That was why I had to leave Go Media. It was strange because it was conflicted, because this is supposed to be like my dream job. I've got a good salary. I'm a partner. I've got great people I work with. I have so many good opportunities. I have creative autonomy. A lot of people admire me. I have a lot of followers. I have everything that every designer who's starting out just like wants, and they think that'll make them happy. And I was happy for a while, and then I started projects on the side like WMC Fest, and then that became my full-time job, basically, is organizing an event. Got me away from just being a creator. I had to maintain a lot of the things that we started. And I wrote a blog about this sort of cycle of discontent and jadedness, and how it's like a catalyst for new ventures and change.
Yeah,
we read that one.
I loved that post.
The treehouse post.
Yes.
Yeah, we read that one.
And I was able to sort of put it in perspective, where it's like, oh, okay, so there's our cycles where I do get dissatisfied and jaded, even with my own creation, and it's just, I have to continue to keep changing and building and stuff. And you can't really stay attached to who you once were. And that period of time when you're trying to figure it out and stay attached and continue to like recreate the magic, so to speak.
That's the worst part.
Yeah, it's the worst
So
part.
hard.
And you have this identity crisis where like, it doesn't seem to fit, but like I made this map and now I have to like continue to do it because if I don't, then I'm broke and dead and I don't know what I'm going to do next. And I even wrote, so I wrote Wake Up, the morning routine that will change your life. All right. And it's ironic because by the time I release it, I'm no longer waking up early because I don't have to. I'm working for myself now. And I woke up early for a year and a half. And through that process, I figured out all these things I wanted to do. I did a lot of work on myself internally. Then it occurred to me that I needed to leave Go Media. And that was a major revelation inside that whole wake up early process. And it took me a year to build up the courage to even tell them I wanted to leave. And then, just fast forward a little bit to the end of 2014 when my last day happened. So then I became a full-time freelancer in January. And I'm like, I still got up early, but I didn't have to because I didn't have anywhere to go. So, but it was weird because my morning routine, after you wake up early for long enough, that becomes just the time you wake up. And it's no longer like early feeling. And it doesn't have that same sort of breakthrough feeling that you do if you just like decide to get up 2 hours earlier tomorrow, you know? And you have all this extra time. Like imagine if you got up 2 hours earlier for a whole year. It doesn't feel early anymore. It just seems like your routine, your schedule. It gets boring after a long time of doing it. So there was a conflict because I was writing this book about it because, well, for one, that was the most popular post on my site was about how I woke up earlier. And I was like, dude, everyone wants to know how to wake up early, so I should write a book about it. And I did. And I said, that's going to be my next book. The universe is speaking to me.
Yeah.
So here it is. Here's the next thing I'm going to work on. So I spent 9 months working on it. And it's actually a great testimony for you can use the wake up early habit to change your life. Even though I no longer practice the wake up early habit, I still do a lot of the other stuff I do in there. It's sort of like this little moment in my life. But now I sort of feel like I'm in this spot of like, well, I have to market it and promote it and hustle it and do all this work and get speaking gigs and do workshops and webinars, all that stuff. But I'm not really feeling like a internal urge to do that. I have an internal urge to, I don't know, like go on a journey across the country and like explore the depths of the universe, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Right. It's the ebook curse. I'm convinced.
Yeah, it's so parallel with art. It's really, really. I'm so glad we're speaking right now because that's the same way. Like we want to do this ebook about how to, do a creative product-based business with Chris for the longest time, and of course the project started right. Like seriously, he emailed us about the start of this project maybe a month before we had to move back home and try to figure out how to do it all over again.
And I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And it is weird because it's we're writing this book at this moment when our business is,
when it's
free falling.
And we're kind of over it, Yeah. I mean, it was still working because really we sold more product last year than we have ever before.
Yeah.
But we were both kind of over it.
Yeah.
So it was just a really odd feeling that being kind of beyond it. And then I started thinking, yet still having to write this book. Then I started thinking, well, maybe the only way you can write a book about something is if you understand it so fully that you are over it. You know what I mean? Like,
and
you mastered it. So.
Exactly. I think you guys are totally on point with something there because the same thing happened when I wrote Threads Not Dead. That was like the Bible of t-shirt design. Every startup clothing company, recommends it to other startup clothing companies. Like this book you got to get if you're starting a line, like it's got everything you need to know. And it's got 50 some reviews on Amazon, which is good for a $50 book,
Yeah.
And it's done really, really well. But right after I wrote it, that was like, I'm done with t-shirt design. It's like I was priced out of most t-shirt design clients, a lot of the bands, they couldn't afford us anymore. And the clothing companies couldn't afford us, and I was on to WMC Fest, and so that was my focus. And it was like the Threads Not Dead book was a closing chapter. It's like, boom, I wrote the book, on to the next thing.
Totally, yeah. That's how we feel.
Yeah,
so maybe it's not a curse, maybe it's just closure for us.
And
maybe it is, I don't know. Yeah. But then you sort of feel like a fraud afterward. Like everyone looks at you like the expert, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, sorry.
Yeah, I don't even do this anymore. So.
Yeah, it was just such a strange feeling, because by the time that book was out, we were already kind of Yeah, over a little bit. We're still definitely doing that, and it's still the stuff applies. Everything we wrote applies.
It's still how I would
do it today.
Well, kind of, mostly.
But it's just so strange. It's just a surreal experience writing that book and still being in that kind of strange place. And it's similar to what you're saying too. Like, we'll talk about the transition with the maps in a little bit, but we did so well last year, but now it's kind of like people would say you're crazy, just keep on doing these maps, and it's like,
if people knew, which they will soon, if they knew what we did last week, they would say that we're insane. They would say that we're crazy, and I don't even care.
So tell me about that. Tell the world.
God. Okay, all right. Well, so this last 2 years has kind of been building up to this, and I don't know if there's anyone out there that makes physical things and tries to sell them, especially art that you're trying to sell. It's a really strange feeling, essentially making the same piece of art for 5 years straight. It's very, very weird. Because it got to the point over the last 2 years that we weren't making anything new. We were actually longer than 2 years, really. Yeah. We were just trying to sell the stuff that we'd already made.
And make slight variations on it, colorways and
very, very small tweaks.
Because we had something that was working. Here comes Will.
Yeah, here comes the cat.
Oh, hey. Speaking of which, I got a cat that decided to crawl under the box under my desk, and it's probably shaking the table with the mic stand on it. Is all this.
They love podcasts.
Yeah.
Yes. So the cat's a part of our podcast. So your cat's his name was Will?
Yep, this is Will.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you,
The other
Will.
one's hiding.
Yeah, this always happens during the podcast because when I'm speaking, he thinks I'm talking to him, so he just comes and just chills.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, as you were saying, you were doing the same thing for 2 years, and
we were,
and we've changed so much because when we started These Are Things, it was 5 years ago. Jen was like 21, I was 23.
Yeah.
And
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and our tastes have changed. The world has changed.
The world has completely changed. Like the way that we used to get the word out about our stuff, like it doesn't work anymore. It's totally changed. Blogs are dead. You know what I mean? Like it's like all Instagram now. It's everything's completely changed. And I think most importantly, we have changed as artists. And this really first started coming up as an issue a couple years ago, but really in January is when we first started saying, okay, this might actually be time to do something about this. Our website was so old and we loved our site.
Yeah, and we loved our site. Everyone loved our site. The first thing people would always say, we had this fully illustrated Parallax website. We spent months working on it. We were really proud of it.
We made it in 2012.
Yeah, we made it in 2012.
And it was great.
Got awards. It was like, it got us a lot of work. It was one of the best things I think we have ever made.
Yeah. I agree. But we're not web developers and we're not web designers, really. We don't really want those jobs. So it was funny because all the emails we get about it were like, hey, can you make one for me? And we were like, no, never.
No. Never. Because we honestly, too, that thing was like, it was like the duct tape, hot glue, like
version of a website.
It was so broken behind the scenes, but it worked for, the average person.
It did. And then we said, okay, new year, we don't know what we're going to do yet this year, but I know that we need a new site. This thing's so old. Like our illustration style is totally different now. We just need to change it. So we sat down like, okay, we're going to reskin it because the concept was good. We're just going to reskin it. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
We sat down and worked on it. He opened up the code and I opened up Illustrator and we looked at each other and said,
can't do this.
I can't do this.
Yeah, This is impossible. And it's like going back 3 years. It's like it's a different person might as well have written this.
It's like going back into a painting that you finished and put up in a gallery 3 years ago. I'm gonna like do another layer on top of it. We looked at each other and said, "This is crazy."
It's like what you're talking about that attachment period. We're still attached to the old, but you want to move forward, and it's funny because you can't do it.
It's impossible.
Do it. Yeah, it's two completely opposing thoughts. You can't be attached to something and be moving forward because it's always going to kind of weigh you down.
Right. So we said, I think it's time.
Yeah. So just one day we said, we started looking at, okay, we'll design a new website, and we're like, well,
I don't want to design a website. I just want to have a website that says what we do. That's it.
I love that. I don't want to design a website. I just want to have a website.
Right. Which, in this day and age, there are beautiful tools like Squarespace that'll let you do that.
Yeah. So we just did that. We took one of their nice, simple themes, and we're like, okay, this will work. We don't have to go into any. We changed one like CSS line, I think.
Right.
And it broke the sites. We're like, we're not going to even mess with this. So we just said we're going to take this right out of the box, and we flipped it over. We thought the world would like shudder, and it's like, oh God, what have you done? And nothing happened.
Nothing happened except we felt like a lightness of not having this old version of ourselves on the internet, which seems weird. I mean, no one even goes to anybody's website anymore, right? Like, I mean, I don't know.
No, I totally know what you mean. You're like, you think the world's watching, but no one really cares.
Yeah.
No one cares. No one cares at all. I don't even think they've noticed it. A few people have, but what are you going to do? It's my website. I took it down. So that was kind of step one for us. And that was at the beginning of the year.
And then at that time we still had, we had a shop on Shopify. So Squarespace has commerce. We're like, well, we still have our maps. So we're going to have this Shopify shop. We're still going to sell the maps. Mm-hmm. And we looked at that and we're like, we don't really want to do this either.
Yeah. It was this weird feeling. Like we looked at each other again and said, I don't know. I think I'm done. Like, I just think I'm done. It was so weird. It wasn't like this big moment. It was just like, we had sold so many of them. We were almost sold out of everything.
We didn't get anything reprinted, so things were running out of stock, and we're like...
Yeah, we hadn't reprinted anything in like a year at least. We had moved everything into a new studio. We moved it out of my parents' basement into a studio when we moved into this apartment. That was about a year ago. So everything was all set up in the studio finally, and
we had finally like there's these like peg boards that were like sitting against the wall, and we finally got like a huge hammer drill and hammered into like concrete blocks. And then like the next week we're like, well, maybe we don't need this thing anymore either.
Usually our curse is when we take studio photos or we take like apartment photos, like the space is done, we seriously always move like the next month. It's just how it goes. And so we were hanging them up, and I was like, there they go. This is the curse. We're going to move. And sure enough.
Our lease is coming up, and we're like, well, do we really need all this space anymore if we don't have all these giant maps? And they said no, so we moved everything into our basement now.
Yeah, we're done. We don't sell maps anymore.
Wow. So there you have it.
Yeah, it's crazy. We put the shop, well, really there was an in-between step to that. And that was we put the shop on a little break. And we decided to actually make art for the first time in a couple years.
Yeah, instead of selling what we used to have. And going back to kind of the root of what we started this thing in the first place was just to make fun so that we enjoyed making. Like, because for a while we're like, well, they said make a Buffalo map. It's like, I've never been to Buffalo, but I'll make a Buffalo map for you. And, you know, it was a nice map, but my heart's not in a Buffalo map.
Yeah.
You would just get paid to do the illustration, right? And
exactly. Yeah. We were right back where we started. You know what I mean? Funny how sometimes that happens where like when we started making stuff for fun, which one of those things happened to be a map, we were trying to get away from the monotony of our day jobs. And now all of a sudden
it became even more monotonous.
It became even worse. I spent all of my time doing spreadsheets, filling out spreadsheets of our product information to sell our stuff seriously at 20% of retail to people who don't care about me. They don't care about art. They don't care about anything except getting cheap Uggs and, you know, a really cheap framed print of that they're, I don't know. It wasn't art anymore to us. And that was really sad.
People still enjoyed it. And that was what made it really hard too, because they'll continually buy stuff, but kind of that thrill of like when we started this thing, people were buying our art, we're like, wow, this is amazing. But since it's like you said with the waking up, you sell the same piece of artwork for 5 years, you don't get that same feeling anymore. It's like, well, okay, sold another Columbus map. That's cool, I guess. But it's the same thing I had.
Yeah, it's so weird how it's so transitory and like just fleeting, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
And that what you said about trying to recapture the magic, where you're in that. How many years we spent, and God, tens of thousands of dollars trying to make that happen again. Yeah, and it just.
You are just trying to chase that first high. That first high when we released that first map and it sold out, and it was like, wow, okay. For the next 5 years, we're like, we got to do that again.
And it's silly because we thought when that first happened, we thought, oh, we figured it out.
It's done. Was easy. That was easy. All you had to do is make art you love, and then you live happily ever after.
And they buy it, and that's so easy. This is great.
And no one really talks about what happens after. Like, you know, you hear all those talks about, well, and I talk ends with "I quit my job," and everyone cheers and like, "Good job, you did it." It's like that's just the very, very beginning of everything.
Yeah, because then they start the new job that they have to quit, and the cycle repeats itself. You know, yeah. That reminds me of like Go Media trying to recapture the magic. So I first joined in 2006, and we were like, no one had heard of us, and you know, Go Media had been around for a few years before that, but they were flying very under the radar. They didn't have a huge online presence at that point. So here comes me with Mr. Social Media, MySpace generation.
Nice.
And then I get on there and hurry up and make a MySpace page for Go Media. And
oh my God, that's awesome.
Real old school.
And we started posting bulletins, and we started posting thanks for the ad, GIFs and stuff like that. And, you know, all that kind of good stuff that MySpace brought to the table, you know. And all these clothing companies and bands were up there, and all of our work was for like band merch and stuff. So we just got popular on MySpace, and then right around that same time we released the Arsenal, our first vector pack, and we had the domain vectorpacks.com. And so stock illustrations, we made 7 different themes. One was skulls, one was wings, one was like splatters. Cool. Okay, and then it took us a couple of days to make these. We put them online. We sold a few $100s worth of the first day. By the end of the first week, we made a few $1,000s.
Nice.
2006, these started to become the year of like this big side project that just took off. In 2007, we made our first $1 million as a company because of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I used those for so many of my college projects. The vector packs.
I know. And then it started to become like when people contact us, you're like, you guys are like the Vector Pack company, right? And I'm like, no. We're like a design agency. We do all this important work. But we just got known for that. And then it was like continuously trying to recreate that magic. Look, we had an $80,000 month in November 2007. And we're like, oh my God, we were all like, we don't have so much cash, we don't even know what to do with, you know?
Yeah.
And we hired a bunch of employees. We bought our office building, and we renovated it, and you know, we built out the dream studio, you know. We've made it, you know, and we were like on the map officially. And then we got a lot of clients. We got featured in magazines. They all came writing, all this kind of stuff. And then all the copycats or the competition started coming up. This was long before Creative Market. This was now there was like Graphic River and Vector Toots and like Brush Easy and Vect Easy, all these free vector sites, and that just started popping up. And then we saw all of our sales starting to drop, and we're like, more. We kept pumping more energy into it, and we started like hiring other illustrators who were better than us and had bigger names and stuff, so they were doing work for us, and it just, we could never get back to where we were, and it just seemed like no matter how hard we tried, it just wasn't there. And then it was like, oh, we can't have another worse month than this until the next month, and then the next month, and 2009, and that was like the big recession year when like the housing market collapsed and all that kind of stuff, and the banks were bailed out, and so we ended up losing quite a bit of money that year, and we ended up having to lay off staff, and for the first time ever, and like people that were like family to us, you know, our designers, that were like, sorry, you know, and that was really, really tragic and tough, but it was like that recreating the magic period. It's really brutal. And even still to this day, it's like a constant trying to like release new products that we think are going to be the next big thing. And that idea, you didn't have that when you first started business. You didn't have this idea of like the next big thing. I got to figure it out. I got to create this thing that's going to be viral and take off because my livelihood depends on it. If I don't, then I'm crushed. I have nothing. You know, I can't just hack away at it with like 1 or 2 clients and making like $24,000 a year. You know, like I've built a lifestyle. And so that's kind of where we ended up. And even though the arsenal at Go Media is not as good as it was, it's still just kind of chugging along. A lot of people still recognize it as an authority, but it's nowhere near the magical feeling as it used to be. Now it's just like a job. Like the new designers come in, and then they work on the arsenal. Like they just got hired at a company that makes clip art, and now that's like the magic is almost gone, you know? Yeah.
Man, that's so funny, because I wonder if you ever can get back to that. That's the whole reason why we're doing this 100-day project, is seeing if we can kind of trick our minds into getting back to that point where you don't have that little hope in the back of your head that something's going to hit like it did the first time. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to get rid of that now, because it's like you've seen how the sausage is made, so you know what's possible.
But the world has changed so much, like you said too, with the competition, and for us even too. It's not really, people are making maps before us, make maps after us. But just the fact that, I mean, Etsy's gone public, like these kind of like handmade, homebrew kind of product-based businesses, they're a dime a dozen. Before, like when we said we were selling maps, we were like, what do you mean? It's selling artwork online now? It's like, oh yeah, you have an Etsy or something. It's like,
just like everyone I know.
Everyone, it's so saturated. Like, we're on Fab when it first came out. Or you're familiar with Fab, the flash sale site? We're on that when it first came out, and we cleared that first Fab sale we did. It was like the first month in business. We did maybe, I think, $50,000 in 3 days.
Yeah.
And we're like, wow. Like this is back when we were like living in a $500 a month apartment.
We were like, woohoo,
we'll never have to work a day in our lives again. Like we're done. And it was just a completely different world because there's a new Fab now, and every week so far we've done it so far too. Jen,
we did. This was the last straw for me. I filled out yet another spreadsheet, and we had yet another sale on this new Fab that everyone, all us designers are like, oh, I hope this is going to be Fab 2.0. We made $50.
Oh my God.
over the 5 days.
In 5 days. And I was like, thank you. It's time of death.
We're done. Yeah, we're done. And every week, every day actually, they posted map themed or travel themed work. So it's kind of like something that used to be
cool. Yeah. Used to be a big thing. And we see all of our fellow map makers on there every single day. I get the email and I hold my phone in Omar's face and I'm like, hey, look who's on there today.
Yeah, it's like another map company. And it is just really strange trying to recreate that. And we see lots of other companies, not lots, but a few have gotten big, and you see a lot of people, once you see the money's there, like you said, with the vector packs, you have hundreds of people, thousands of people trying to enter that market, trying to get a piece of that pie. And it's hard not to get lost in that kind of shuffle.
Yeah, and it's the way of things. I think as an artist, we kind of have an advantage in that we're always kind of wanting to do something new anyway. It's just hard when you have something that does well, because then you feel a pressure to stick to it. And
it's hard when you rely on it for your money too, because it's easy to want to create new stuff, but it's always a big risk when you create something new too, because it costs money, it takes time.
Huge risk. When I talk about a huge risk, we thought that stationery was going to be like the thing for us. We thought, this is great. We see all these like little independent companies that turn into big independent companies making these greeting cards. And so we put how much money over 2 years?
Like probably 40, 60,000.
50, 60, yeah.
Wow.
Many tens of thousands of dollars into printing cards and doing 2 trade shows, and
just no return.
No return. Big loss.
Big loss, yeah.
Big loss. And it just didn't it didn't pan out at all.
Yeah.
And last week we threw
a bunch of cards away.
Tens of thousands of greeting cards into...
Oh, recycled.
We recycled, at least.
It was one of those attachment things we had. Every day we went to our studio, we saw... Like, we've sold hundreds of them at this point, but when you get...
We sold thousands with the Nordstrom order.
Yeah, but when you get 24,000 of something printed, you will never sell.
No, if you sell 1,000 out of 24,000 things, it still looks like 24,000 things, and it takes up a lot of room in a warehouse that we have to pay for.
Every day we went in there, and it was like kind of taunting us. We're like, we just have to just cut it at some point, get rid of this attachment.
And it was last week. We decided probably 2 or 3 weeks ago that we weren't going to renew our lease at our studio, which meant that we had a lot of stuff to find homes for. We had the remainder of the maps, and we had the remainder of the cards, and all of our shelving. And I mean, it's a 1,200 square foot space packed with stuff from our trade shows and everything. So it was last week, and we woke up, and it was another one of those moments, just like the website. I said, today's the day. Today's the day. I'm done. And we backed the car into the space. We put 24,000 cards into the back of the car, drove it a block and a half to the recycling bin, and we have filmed a lot of cool slow-mo video of like chucking cards in, and it felt awesome.
It's like those were on our back, we didn't even notice it. Every day we're walking with like this 100 pounds of paper on our back, and now it's just gone. So
how many spaces we've moved it to our first warehouse, down to my parents' basement, to this space, and then it was just I can't touch these things one more time. And they're slippery because they were bundled in packs of 25 with this like shrink wrap. And so they were slippery. They're falling everywhere. I'm just like so over it.
Wow.
Just get out of here. Yeah. So that's what we did last week. And I think that it might seem kind of crazy to throw away, you know, how many thousands of dollars did we spend getting those printed? But I said it wasn't about the money, and it wasn't even about the designs, because I still like the designs.
We're still really proud of the designs.
It was just not.
This didn't sell.
It's just not what we. I didn't need them anymore. I was just over it, and it's that non-attachment, I think, that lets you move on. I don't know. It felt really good.
Yeah, it's got to get to a point where getting rid of it feels like relief and freedom, you know?
Yes.
It's almost like you have to naturally get to that state where your body is really like saying, this is the time. Because, you know, maybe 2 weeks ago, you couldn't have gotten rid of it, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
And that was the
like,
case.
It's like a tipping point. It really is like one more grain of like sand, and then all of a sudden, the entire...
And then you can just like breathe out and let it go. Felt so good. Chuck it into that can. It was an awesome moment.
Yeah.
So, gosh, this brings up this question. Like, what does this all mean to, like, you had a taste of success, just like I had a taste of success in quotes here.
Yeah.
Where we both made like a lot of money, so to speak. I mean, me as a partner at Go Media, we never really paid ourselves a lot of money, but we built a business with it, which a lot of people don't have that opportunity to do. So they're still struggling and scraping to get by, but you got a chance to experience fame and fortune to a moderate amount, especially for artists. And so did I. And then now we have this recreating the magic stage and all this pressure to come up with the next big thing, not only as a way to maintain our lifestyle, but then just to feel like this is where we were, and there's this perceived decline that we felt, or or perceived like we're going backwards in life or something like that. But I'm starting to believe that none of that is even true. All that is an illusion anyway. But I don't know exactly where to go, because there's still a pressure for me to make money, to make something, to use my abilities as a creator and an artist to make something valuable for other people to buy or whatever it is, so then I can afford to eat. But even like with my book, like I thought it was going to be the next thing for me that's going to help sustain me so I can be independent. But I had about $1,500 of sales the first week, and then about $50 since. And it's been a month that I've made like $50 off my book. And I've got several buying options that are worth more than $50. Just in one product, and I just haven't sold anything. And I'm like, okay, I blog regularly, I post a lot on social media, I'm sharing constantly. I feel like my landing page is perfect. It's got testimonials, it's got call to actions, it's got everything.
Yeah, it looks great.
It looks great. People probably buy it and be like, oh my god, Jeff is doing awesome, look at this book, you know? And Jeff's got it figured out. He's the morning routine guru. He knows all about self-help. And but to be completely honest, the book isn't selling at all. And I have 50 shirts here that I bought that I had printed, you know, on American Apparel Tri-Blends, which costs like $12 a blank or something ridiculous. But it's like my favorite shirt, and I only got 50 this time because I always get 100, and I never even sell like 10. So
Same here. Oh my god.
So I have them. I'm like, okay, I better post them on Instagram. I'm gonna post it on Facebook. I got to remind people to buy it. And then no one buys it, or maybe one or a few other people buy it. And I'm just like, I feel like such a hustler, and that's not who I am. I'm like, I'm done hustling. I don't even want to be on social media. Imagine a world where I didn't have to worry about what my Facebook updates were going to be. It's just like, so what do we do? Like, go get a part-time job and like just, I mean.
Well, I can tell you, I have been on the Jenny's Ice Cream job site many times. many times. But you know, the fact is, we are fortunate enough to still be able to be doing freelance work that pays a lot of our expenses. So that definitely made it easier for us to make the decision to, you know, kind of move on from the map shop stuff.
But also similarly too, after this lease is done at the end of this month, this is the least amount of money we'll have been spending since we started this business.
Yeah. Speaking of a lifestyle, you know, maintaining a lifestyle, sometimes the easiest thing to do is
just cut everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it was a lot more convenient having a 1,200 square foot studio where we had, you know, our printers there. Now we're in like, you know, a basement where like ceiling is like 1 inch taller than me. I've already headbutted the light and bent it right in half.
He busted a light with his head.
A light bulb like shattered on his head.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of those CFLs, so it just kind of broke out of its socket.
But
it was like sputtering and like
I was like, oh,
sparking. I was
God.
like, oh shit, we need like a
yeah, and
cage for this.
yeah, really cutting back our expenses. A good deal.
So that's we're kind of trying to. I mean, and you even said, you move, you do what you need to do to be able to kind of make it work.
Because that's the easy. That is the best solution. That's what we found. Okay, because we had the social media discussion too, like, oh, if you had to post so much or that kind of stuff. The easiest way to do that, we see our other friends that have jobs. They have to have a normal job. They only use social media to update pictures of their cats or whatever. And that's the way that you can do that. But something inside of us, once you get that taste of like the freedom of not working for anybody, it's impossible to go back.
I don't think we can do it. I really don't think. I think I'm completely unemployable at this point. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, and it's tough because that's the solution to so many of the problems. But we would rather make so many more sacrifices on our end in order to have that freedom to work for ourselves.
Yeah, I know, and people are listening who don't work for themselves, that are working full-time jobs or can't find employment, and it's all that stuff. And people be jealous and envious of us because, you guys get to work for yourself. Not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
And while I do feel envious, I do feel fortunate to be in that situation. But at the same time, I know what it's like. It's like I can't go work for somebody else. I can if I'm like learning something new or if I'm like participating in something that matters to me. Like I'll work for a part-time job and put in my time, turn off the time clock at the end of it, and know that maybe I'll go work at a screen printing shop or whatever for $10 an hour.
Yeah.
So I can like learn something new, and it's like maybe I'm working with people that are interesting to me, it gets me out of the house.
Yeah.
Those types of things. I might do something like that, but yeah, it's weird. Once you've got that taste of it, you feel like you have to maintain it, and it's like the maker mistaker. We're makers, but we're trying to like live a life in alignment with what we're passionate about and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Well, so okay, you guys are doing this new thing, this 100 Things project.
Yeah.
And so I see you guys sharing it all over social media, and all these little things that you're making are like really, really cool. Just like small. You do that in the basement. You just create these little buttons and patches and stuff.
So we have some outsourced help to help us make some of it. Yeah, but some of it we are making on our own. That project really started when we first started feeling earlier this year like, hey, we might be really done with the map thing. Well, what does that mean? We still have to make stuff.
And so we thought about it in kind of the old way. Okay, well, what do we do before? Well, we think about a big launch. We'll get 40 items ready or 50 items. We'll do a big rebranded relaunch kind of thing.
Yeah. And then we thought, well, that's how we've been doing it. And I don't like that anymore.
It's a lot of pressure on one day.
Right. On one day, here's our new stuff. And do you like it? And we thought, no, it needs to be more of an exploration. Like if we go back to when we first started making art together, what did that look like? And it was us on a Friday night going to Hobby Lobby or, the art store, seeing what kind of spoke to us, spending $10, buying some stuff, and then tinkering all weekend and coming up with something at the end. And so that's kind of the model that we wanted to go back to, was kind of this exploration that we're not limited on a subject matter of maps or anything. We're not limited to a medium. We're not limited to anything, really. Just what would happen if we actually sat down and made art
every day.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where that came from.
And also too, kind of with this world we live in now with the social media stuff, is that if you post something once, you can't post something once because people, might not be looking at it at that moment.
They don't see it.
Yeah. So by doing things every day, we're always, inundating people with new stuff that we're doing. 'Cause that's one thing people ask us all the time, because we never released anything new. We'd be too busy
selling the old,
and so we had nothing to talk about. So they talked to us like, "Oh, are you guys doing anything right now?" Like
they thought we were like dead. I always look at my little brother as the perfect example. If he notices that we've done something or thinks that it's cool, like I can assume that like the general public, that's probably like their perception of us too. So
or if we go over there and he says like, you guys haven't really been doing anything lately, have you?
That's what he says. Yeah, what have you guys been doing? Like I haven't seen anything. And I'm like, oh, but Will, we've been
filling out spreadsheets and packing orders.
Redesigning a Shopify store that no one goes to. Like, so he doesn't see that. So neither does anybody else. It looks like we're just doing nothing. So he said, we're going to make it look like we're doing a lot because we are doing a lot. And it was actually really good timing.
It was very strange timing.
Yeah, it was super weird. We came up with this idea like at the end of February, I think. And we said, okay, we'll give ourselves like a month head start.
Yeah, that's where we got some of the patches and the pins made because we can't make those every day. Like, so we had to get those.
Yeah, we designed some stuff in advance because we knew we wanted to make enamel pins because they're so cool. And we knew we wanted to make patches. And they take a little bit of time, a couple weeks. So we worked kind of towards this early April-ish kind of deadline to start doing this project. And about a week before, we got an email from The Great Discontent. I don't know if you read them. They're super cool.
I know about them.
Yeah, like a design kind of interview magazine. And they were kind of hosting this 100-day project. I don't know what. Like, they have a hashtag for it. And anyway, they were encouraging people to do a 100-day project.
And at first, we're like, oh, no, we're screwed. They're doing it. And this is going to be our big plans. It's going to be so unique and so different. Like, we're going to do things for 100 days. And all of a sudden, we get an email that's been going on for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And we were like, oh, no. Like, they're going to start the same time we were. And I was like, oh, well, we'll just do it as a part of theirs. I mean, it's not even a part of anything. You just use the hashtag, right? I mean, like you said, I wish we didn't have to use social media. I'm like a super private person. It's a lot to keep up with. But
it's the only way people know that you're even alive anymore.
It's the world we live in now. We have to do it.
If we didn't use social media, we would not be selling anything. Almost all our sales come from Instagram.
And it's getting more fun now. I'm having a little more fun with it now that we actually have something to post. I always had such an anxiety about, I don't have anything to show. I have spreadsheets and boxes of, cardboard boxes to show people.
And a dirty garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was kind of the inspiration for the 100 Things project.
And some of the stuff, tell us about some of the things that you're making. I mean, I see I like the, what was that, the Facebook one? It was like anti-social media.
Yeah, exactly.
And it had a little thumbs down. And then you had another one. It was like I tried my best little certificate, like a little ribbon.
Yeah. So every single thing they're very personal to us. So like every single thing that we're making has to do with either something that we like or that we've experienced, or like that little ribbon was a replica of one that Omar has had sitting on his desk for like years.
Yeah,
and years.
I look at it at the end of every day and I say, okay, I did my best. Yeah,
that's
all I can do. Yeah, one of my friends got it for me when he went to China. So it was one of these weird like Chinese patches. But because that's one thing we really wanted to do, because the maps didn't have as much of a personal connection with us at that point anymore, and we said everything we got to do has to come from our heart.
Yeah, that was really the only goal. Like everything else was open to interpretation, but as long as it was something that it felt like us and felt like us now, today, like, which is different from the us of 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a little scary to think like, oh my God, we're going to be showing people something that's completely different from what
they've seen the last 5 years. The last 5 years, like whenever we would go somewhere, like, oh yeah, you guys are the map people. You guys must love maps. Like, I guess the maps are okay.
Like, yeah, but
we made a map because we love travel, not necessarily because we love maps.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like the map just happened to be a viral thing that took off, and we capitalized on it, and we thought we had to go down there and do it over and over again.
And then they back away slowly.
Yeah, I know.
we tried not to say that anymore, because you can see like their hearts get like crushed in their bodies.
I know, because they want you to be like the map people.
Yeah,
that are like sparkly and alive with.
Yeah.
And then we started talking about like the occult and stuff. They're like,
yeah, I feel like when people,
nice.
Yeah, we knew there was an issue when people met us, and you could see in their eyes. I think, God, I could go on a tangent about like gurus and like how people look online, but they think they know you, but they have no idea. You know what I mean? And that applies to everybody that you think you know. I feel like whether they're a peer or someone you look up to, everyone's just a person. So, but we knew we were you're also in control of what you project out. You're in control of what you show other people. And I felt like with our stuff, we had boxed ourselves into this such a small piece that we would show to people that when they actually met us, there was a disconnect there.
And you can't blame them because that's what we showed them. We showed them
exactly.
maps. We showed them maps and we showed them a cute little face that represented ourselves. So of course they think we're cute map people.
Yeah. So it's a fault on us. It's that we weren't being necessarily authentic. We didn't let the public version of ourselves grow up as the real version of ourselves did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like in alignment, like because you choose to project this image online, and then you have like your real personality behind all of that stuff. And and some people choose to like separate it. Like I'm gonna be my real me offline, and this is the people, my friends and family know who I really am. But then my business online, I sell maps. Like and the people that know me for that, that's okay. Like I remember listening to a Sean West podcast, and he talked a lot about that too. Like curate what you share. Like be known for one thing. Be known for like the lettering guy, type of thing. Be known for brushstroked hand lettering with like only 2 colors or something really like specific. And then, but like the flip side of that is how terribly limiting it feels and inauthentic it feels, because I think as humans, we just want to belong. We want to feel like we're ourselves and safe to belong. Mm-hmm. But when we project an image out there online that maybe was us, and then now we have to conform to that, and we can't feel like we can't grow or even express a different part of our personality because now it's going to hurt something, and we're not going to be as lovable or as we can't survive as easily because sales are low. And I experienced this too when I started my Maker Mistaker blog, because I started writing about how I was depressed, and that was a huge thing because everyone expects me to be like on it, and like like I had a lot of success and I had cool design work. So it's like, oh, I was depressed. To me, when I was posting it, it was so terrifying to come out. I felt so embarrassed. Like to say that I was depressed. Like I felt like I can't say it because, look at all the people that really have a hardship, and who am I to be depressed? Brene Brown talks about the shame gremlins, and then one of them is I'm ashamed to be depressed, and the other one is, well, fine, I'm not going to be ashamed to be depressed. I'm going to post about it. And then the other shame gremlin says, well, who the heck do you think you are to talk about that? And now that the stuff that I'm into, I'm into some weird stuff. I'm into the occult. I'm into the esoteric and consciousness and spirituality and metaphysics and new agey stuff. And I'm going through it. It's very new. It's new to me as of 2.5 years ago, but it's exciting to me, and I want to talk about it. But I knew as soon as I start talking about it, it's not on my brand,
I know.
So how do I do it?
I like scribble down little phrases that I want to turn into like buttons or patches or whatever. And one of them is kill your brand. Kill your brand. We always talk about how this is a POS business, a piece of shit business. I think a lot of that wanting to stay on brand comes from this like,
it's kind of an inferiority thing, like saying, okay, the difference between me and like a brand making millions is the fact that they're so on brand, but
right. It's this wanting to project this image of being so professional and so on brand, when in reality, we're a POS. And I say that with love. It's that to me means...
we're so fortunate. We're so happy to be able to support ourselves and support our cats and live this life.
And make art for a living. It's a beautiful thing, but I can't pretend that it's a real business. Like it's not a real thing. And when you try to make it seem like a real thing, I feel like that's where you get stuck in that trap of not being able to just be yourself. Which it sucks. I hate brands. I hate brands.
We're people,
Yeah, and I mean, as a designer who works with brands, like how could you possibly say that, Jen? I mean, that's your clients. They start brands and then they hire you to design for them and do their logos. And
well, you know what's a brand? Burger King is a brand.
Yeah, and
I am not a brand.
Yeah, I'm happy to work. We're happy to work for Burger King and follow their brand guidelines and do whatever. But I'm not going to make as much money as Burger King my entire life. I don't want to make as much money as Burger King.
I don't want to be a brand.
Yeah,
that was a big thing for us too. I think in every industry there are success stories and examples of people or companies that are like super duper successful and that everybody kind of looks up to them as like, oh, this is like what we should all be striving for. It was a really big moment when we could look at each other and say, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to ever have employees. I don't ever want to really even have an office space at this point. I am not interested in that. And that's not really something that's talked about. Everything's always, let's get bigger and
let's do the next big thing. Everyone goes, we're going to get interns, we're going to get this. It's like, I don't want this.
Right. Are you doing the stationery show again this year? And I'm like, nope. No way, man. I'm getting smaller by the day and I'm so happy about it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. So it's like you're cutting out the fluff and you're simplifying. And for me, that was such a relief when I started following my sort of spiritual guidance, this feeling that I wanted a simpler life.
Yeah.
And I started getting attracted to like having no goals, having less, and getting rid of clutter. And of course, I couldn't get rid of clutter in the way that all the online tutorials teach you how to get rid of clutter. I'm like, it just was too much work. I mean, and I also noticed that I've got an inherent laziness about me where I just have an aversion to constantly hustling and working hard. And that definitely contrasts with sort of the modern entrepreneurial spirit of hustle, bust your ass, show up every single day and, pursue your passion and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like I'm missing out on life or something because it takes the fun out of it, especially when your passion becomes your job. And then now you have to like live your job and show up every day. Otherwise you're going to go broke. And also, I was with Maker Mistaker. I share a lot of personal stuff in my sort of spiritual journey, and it gets into the weird stuff. And I started writing about out-of-body experiences. And this is where it got weird because this felt authentically me to the point enough where I was confident to share it. There's obviously I can't be extremely transparent. I can only write so much and to have people really believe it's me. But that was the first time I started getting like haters or people that disagreed with my beliefs. And they were like constantly a few people on Facebook were bothering me about trying to prove to me that it wasn't real. And then I remember, Jen, I saw you had you Instagrammed like a David Icke book.
Yeah.
Okay. So David Icke is somebody that I'm not like a huge follower or whatever, but I'm aware of him and I've watched a few of his lectures online, like a 9-hour lecture.
Do you watch the whole thing?
They have so many long YouTubes.
Yes.
Oh my God. He's
I watched
prolific.
the whole thing. He's very prolific, all right? But he's like a conspiracy nut, right? That's what a lot of people will say. So I remember the first time I posted something that came from his website or was written by him, I just got all these people that were in my circle of influence. They were designers, they were people I looked up to. They're like he's an anti-Semite and a Jew hater and blah 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 blah. So like and I'm like I didn't know that, or I don't know. And then they're basically saying, and then they told me like, Jeff, I respect you, but I really feel sorry for you. Don't go down this path. Please don't let them carry you away to the loony bin,
Oh.
And I just started feeling like this, like, okay, I can't even share what I want because I'm feeling like I'm getting ostracized from like my community.
Right.
Or something like that. So it's weird. It takes a lot of guts to talk about this stuff. Of course, there's like a huge community of people that already talk about it and they don't care. But like I built up this reputation online that now I had to deal with. I couldn't change. I couldn't be who I was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we went through something similar. I mean, it's hard when your public perception is one way and then you kind of go down a different path. It takes guts to have an opinion that is not popular.
And I think that's one thing that's actually kind of interesting too, because we always know that we're doing something right when there are the haters, when there are people that are unfollowing us. It's because we were at the very beginning, right? When we first had our first map, we had so many negative comments about that map.
Oh my God.
People saying like, oh, you forgot this place, looks like crap. They actually said like, what creative plus map equals crap. Like it was like some real crazy comments.
Oh my God.
But it was funny because as the time went on, the negative comments went way down, but so did any comments.
Positive.
Yeah,
right. Because we weren't really doing anything that was making any sort of statement at all.
We're trying to be safe. We're saying, okay, what's a map that we can do that will not offend anybody and will make everyone happy? And it's an old, trope, old saying, but you try to make everybody happy, you make no one happy. And worse than that is you make no one even notice. Like no one even notice.
Right.
We're even around.
Yeah, it was so kind of interesting to watch it get like more and more safe as time went on. And I thought it's not like maps are really, I didn't think they were that controversial. But
why would somebody get offended? Okay, by nature of including cities, you're going to exclude cities, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But people have such a very strict idea of what a map is. A map is this thing I see at school that has every city labeled, every river labeled, has the right whatever.
Yeah, it's a very personal thing too, these locations, and they're like, people's definitions of like even neighborhood boundaries are different. And so like if, I don't know, we had a more free form approach with it. It was not very technical. So that really bugged some people. But yeah, over time, it did get more safe.
Like as we've been doing this project too, usually it's with the tarot cards. There's a one where we had that big pentagram on the tarot card. We lost.
Actually, this is great. Okay, so like right before we started the 100-Day Project, we worked with a website to sell some of our like old Overstock stuff, and
they're a great website.
They're awesome. I love them, but they're primarily Mormon mommy bloggers on this website. So we got a bunch of followers, and even over the years, like our map audience has skewed more
towards like
moms, cool moms. And now all of a sudden we're like tarot cards and like
they're like, I don't think
weird stuff that they're like, what the heck is this?
What other weird stuff do you guys make? So you guys have done illustrations that are tarot related. I saw you had an Illuminati pin.
Yeah, we had a cool Illuminati pin,
some
alien stuff, and even just the photos themselves. Like we went from very soft colors, lots of white, to almost hurt your eyes neon, like these big pops of color. Like
even our cards too, they went from being subtle tone on tone vintage colors to
very soft, very sweet to in your face, like almost like, I don't know, they just have a lot more, everything has more attitude, visually, conceptually, everything. And that's more in line with who we are.
And every post we do, we lose
a lot of followers.
We lose followers, but we also gain more followers, and that's kind of the cool things that you can kind of shed the old and bring in the new, and it's people that are more like, somebody followed us and his name's like Capitalism Sucks.
Capitalism Sucks. Who else is following us? Like some cool people. Like I look at these people and I'm like, yeah, these are people like I'd be friends with.
I'd hang with, yeah.
So it's actually good. It is. It's a shedding of the skin, and like the people who are not down with the new you are just gonna do their thing, and the people who now. We haven't had any like vocal haters,
we haven't had like people
trying to pull us out of the dark side of like
making weird
art, but
people will always have an opinion. I think Brene Brown said it too. She talked about what did she say about the disappointment? She said when people are disappointed in you, it's because you behaved in a way that they did not expect. It has nothing to do with you.
It's not about your behavior. It's about their expectation of your behavior.
Yeah.
So that's totally what it is. In your case, especially, it's that you are not believing in what they would expect you to believe or what they want you to believe or do what they want you to do. Yeah.
Yes. And then I just recently posted, that was 2 years ago when about a year and a half ago was when I started I was actually engaging in debates on whether out-of-body experiences were real. Even though like I had one, and and I was so excited to share it on Facebook. This corresponded with my first out-of-body experience blog post. And so I had a bunch of people that were sort of supporters of that, notion, and then a bunch of people that were doubting and questioning it. So anyway, now this week I posted that I'm going to a 6-day workshop at the Monroe Institute all about out-of-body exploration, and it's from one of my favorite teachers, William Buhlman. I've read 3 of his books about adventures out of the body, adventures in the afterlife, and using out-of-body travel and astral projection to like explore the deeper you, explore life's biggest questions and other dimensions of consciousness and the multidimensional universe and all this stuff. So I'm super excited about it. So I'm like, hey, I posted, I'm officially going to the workshop, and then that's when the guy commented. He said, he's like, well, Jeff, I've been a fan of yours for years. Sorry, but it's painful to watch you go down this path. Like, it's almost like this faux concern for me. Like, and they're saying like, best of luck. Like, and it's this
then
weird,
don't watch.
It's this weird patronizing like concern. Like they think that they're like, oh, bless your heart, you're doing so good, but don't go down that path. That's the bad path, And it just totally invalidates you. Like it's just a weird dismissal of who you really are. Like it's a total judgment, and I don't know where people can get off on that type of judgment, And but I also remember too when I used to feel that way when people would talk about aliens and ghosts as if they were real in everyday life. My mom was a big conspiracy theorist. That she's the one who kind of started me on this path in a weird way, but not really by my choice. She used to always preach to me about how the New World Order is going to take over and there's one world government and the Illuminati and all that stuff. And I used to be like, Mom, come on, I don't want to hear it. I live in my own world where none of this even exists. None of this even happens. I'm perfectly fine. I do not want to choose to live in a world where there are Satanists ruling the world. Even though there is. That's true. I've come to find that out. But okay, that's another story. But yeah, so now I don't know where I was going with that, but I just wanted to share the changing of the audience, or so to speak, and this idea of followers, and people have expectations of you, and you have to like live up to these expectations. But I'm like, we're human beings. I'm a person. You're a person. Right. Like, we're not our brands online. It's just like, he's like, I was a follower of you. And my first review on this podcast was a 1-star review because they had followed my work, and now I'm talking about magical thinking bullshit with like psychics on my first episode. And it's like, wow, I'm not trying to judge anybody else. I'm following my curiosity. And, it's a little dangerous to like follow your curiosity into the unknown. And then you've got people like that just try to prevent you from traveling that path. But I think that's what happens when you go toward your path. If you feel conflicted on the inside, you reflect it, you experience that conflict externally through people that doubt you. And they reflect back your own self-doubt internally.
Yeah, I can see that.
And another good quote that we watch a lot of Shark Tank. I'm not sure if you watch that show. It's
I don't watch it, but I've heard a lot about it.
It's so good.
For anyone that runs their own business, doesn't matter what kind of business it is, 100% recommend it.
It's like required watching.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah.
But Mark Cuban said that never take advice from someone who doesn't have to live with the consequences of what they're telling you to do. And that's what we always think about too. Is like, oh yeah, this guy's going to advise you to not go down this path, but he doesn't have to live with your internal struggle and your squash of your own curiosity.
Right. He's not you.
Yeah. He doesn't know you. Doesn't know what you're going through, what your everyday life is. And
yeah, I don't know where people find the time to write comments like that, though, because I'm like, everyone's going to do what they're going to do. Plenty of people believe in some totally crazy stuff. And
yeah, I don't like to get to this, probably be unpopular, but I mean, if you can believe in that, I mean, what's the difference between that and believing in like there's an old man with a beard up there with your like dead dogs and grandma?
Right. It's all equally outrageous as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So who's to say which one is more outrageous than another?
How does anyone really know? So
yeah, and it's funny because I've been reading and learning a lot about shame, especially with listening to a lot of Brene Brown, and then I just recently picked up a book called So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I was just at a bookstore and I caught my eye at the cover twice, and I'm like, I think I should check that book out. Like, okay, so I listened, and it's actually extremely relevant to me because public Twitter shaming is like a thing where like someone steps out of line and then they are ostracized from the community, and in a way that's like beyond the judicial system. It's like they're punished, and they listed some great examples of like, so how in the modern day conference sort of scene, the tech scene, there's like a big movement towards diversity and towards like including women. And so second year WMC Fest was written on good.is saying that we're a boys club or an example of a conference that's doing it wrong. Like here's just another conference filled with white guys doing their thing, and it's totally exclusionary of minorities and all that stuff. I remember when I read that, my like heart sank because here's like my hopes and dreams into this event, and now all of a sudden, someone who I didn't even think anybody was paying attention, a big blog decides to try to like paint us as this like example of what's wrong in the world, Yeah. And so that's when Joseph came on board to like help us, like, okay, well, there's this article, but I'm going to help you like be more diverse or whatever. So I'm like, yes, definitely help us. That whole process, though, we did become a diverse conference. But the whole time, I felt like I was trying to do what was right. And I felt like I was bad on the inside because I didn't, by default, do this automatically. And the way that people came to me to like try to fix my conference felt kind of condescending. And it kind of felt like I was less than. And if I didn't listen to their criticism, then I was a bad person worthy of being shamed online. And so that stuff never really even occurred to me until I started learning about shame and how, like, oh my gosh, I totally felt that when people pointed out that I'm not diverse enough. Like, because not being diverse means you are like, you're not progressive, you're not a modern day thinker, you're old times, you're not like up with it. And
right,
you know,
nothing good.
You must be a misogynist, you must be a racist, you must be all that stuff. Those words are really shaming in today's culture. Like, as much as, so okay, I'm coming about talking about like out of body experiences. It's one thing to be made fun of for that, but if someone comes out and says that you're a racist and then that gets around, that's almost like just death to your personality, you know,
right.
online. And so the book So You've Been Publicly Shamed had real stories of people, like, then they had an example. These guys in a tech conference were talking about dongles. And
I remember that.
So you remember that? Okay.
Yes.
Donglegate.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then he said something like, oh, I'd like to fork that guy's repo. Apparently a woman who was sitting behind them took their picture and then shared it online, like, not cool. This is really offensive. And then so they were like, oh, you know, sorry. And then that got spread around. Those guys were shamed. But then on the flip side,
fired too, right?
They were fired from their job. And he posted on Hacker News saying, like, I was fired from my job from this. You know, this woman, like, I didn't consent to any of this. She posted it. And then then like the flip side, like the 4chan community started attacking the woman as the enemy now and shaming her, of course. And they throw out all the words like cunt, whore, bitch, you know, rape her, burn her alive, all these like horrible things that, you know, 4chan is known for. But I'm like, wow, people act in such outrageous ways to like shame people that step out of line. And right now we're living in this time of progressiveness and like diversity and acceptance of everyone. But then if you don't follow that rule, then you're not accepted and you're ostracized like anyone else. Like, oh, you're a white person, you need to respect your privilege and understand all that stuff. And so it's just a scary time too, to like not know where you stand and what you can do. So like on one hand, you're doing the right thing, but you feel like you're just people pleasing and you're trying to like not get burned alive at the stake. You know, you're playing in the sandbox, but it's really scary. And you've got white knights running around who are like trying to like champion diversity, but they're willing to shame and use people as an example as people that are doing it wrong, like somehow.
Right.
We always see, like, whenever we see negative comments on people's like Instagrams or Facebooks, I think that's what's kind of changed in this world too, is that I don't think people realize when you type something in, you send a comment, it goes to their phone. Like, your phone buzzes and then you read it and someone is saying something mean about you.
That's what we always say. It's so personal. Like, you are literally sending that message really to that person's body, because our phones are connected to us all the time now anyway.
Yeah.
And how crazy that anyone can send anything to anyone else. It's really crazy.
And you kind of do forget that there are people at the other end of that, you know, all those tubes.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because we get those comments too. We try not to let it affect us, but we see them all. Like, we're not very big. Like, you know, we see every single one of them. So it's very.
It can be hard.
It makes you want to not do anything.
Yeah,
it really makes you want to just hide and not be seen.
Yeah.
You know, Brene Brown says, show up and be seen. Go in the arena. And that's what all the credit is due. It's not the critics. It's the people in the arena that count. Right. And just by putting a conference out there, by nature of including people, you're excluding everyone else that you didn't include.
Right.
And it's not like it was ever on purpose. And as someone who's me, I'm like a do-gooder. I want to do the right thing. So it's really personal to like, well, I didn't want to offend anybody. So like I definitely took strides to make it more diverse. And I really believe in diversity and acceptance for everyone. But I'm just not sure on the right way to go about it. I think there's a way to do it that doesn't involve shame or guilt. It's like I am following this path of the heart and the path of love and oneness and all this stuff. But it's also, I think I would do it slightly differently. I'm not going to shame somebody else for doing it wrong if they don't do it the way I agree. But I would I would do it myself. I would start my own conference, you know, rather than try to fix another person's conference, so to speak.
Yeah.
So with respect that the feminist community and everything does, and I agree with a lot of their views, it's just that I personally have to admit that I feel this shame emotion and how to come to terms with that and how it actually prevents you from speaking your truth because you feel like, who am I? I'm just a white guy now with no, like everything I say is tainted with this idea of privilege. So nothing I have is relevant. But it's like, wait a minute, I'm a human being just like anyone else. We just live in this weird, bizarre time that this stuff is coming up to me. So I don't know why I got on that topic. I think it's because we're talking about like being who you really are, being authentically you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it is just a strange time to be, because we're kind of at this new frontier because everything is so public and it's just so different than how our parents grew up, or with work and with running a business. Like it's the first time people are running this kind of businesses, and that are doing this kind of stuff. And
that's what we talk about all the time. Like, what are we supposed to do now? You know what I mean? Like, we didn't pick something to do that is going to be the same for like 2 days in a row ever. It's a really strange place to be. I mean, with everything, with work, with everything, everything's changing so fast. I feel like.
And the public shaming thing. I mean, it's all the internet. Before there wasn't really this public shaming because no one out of Cleveland would probably know about the conference that was even going on, because without the internet.
Yeah.
And of course, we didn't get it nearly as bad as somebody else. Like, my life isn't ruined, you know what I mean?
Right.
It was challenging and it was tough, and actually taught me a ton of lessons. Like, I grew tremendously through it. I mean, it was tough. So I respect everyone involved in the whole thing. You can live in a world where people don't like you, and that's something that I have to try to learn, where I feel like I want everyone to like me.
Yeah.
And that's what we found too. It's impossible. When you start going down that path of, I gotta get everyone to like me, that's when you become the most miserable, because that's where we were.
Yeah.
We're saying we got to get more people to like us. We got to get more people to follow us. That's how we're going to achieve this happiness. But every day we got less and less happy with the work we were doing.
Yeah. Don't do anything to offend anyone.
Yeah.
I think the final straw as far as that goes for me was, we were speaking at a conference and we were at like a party afterwards for all the speakers. And one of the speakers came up to us and we were talking about what were we talking about? Like,
I don't even know.
I don't know, something. And she said, "Oh my gosh, you seemed so wholesome." I thought, I was like, wait, what? Like, wholesome? Like, I'm not saying I'm like some super crass, like, out there kind of person, but like, I would never use the word wholesome to describe myself. And I was like, oh my God, maybe something is not like
in line.
In line here. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm a very nice person. So, like, to me, if I ever, like, or offend somebody, it's totally against who I believe I am, and then also the public perception of me being a nice person. So it's that whole idea of, like, oh my gosh, someone's going to think that I'm not nice is extremely terrifying. It's like, I've been raised to, like, be good. And but there's a whole spectrum of emotions that I kind of minimize and suppress in myself, like my own anger and, like, that shadow side of us. That we suppress because we have to try to not rock the boat or create conflict. And I'm not a person who likes conflict. Like in the Shame book, it was funny because he was talking about conflict. He's like, I'm not against conflict. I kind of like it when other people are in conflict, but not me. Like, I like to watch if I see two people fighting on the street, but he's just like, I'm just not into being involved in the conflict. And it was just like, he just put it, the way he put it was just hilarious.
Funny.
That's kind of been the point of this 100-day project for us too, is to lose that kind of attachment, because what we would do before is spend months on one project and put it out there, and if the outcome wasn't exactly like how we expected it to be, we'd be crushed and we'd be out of commission for another few months, saying, well, we spent all that money, all that time, and this is what we get. So with this project, it's like, today we launched something that's like, okay, I could have done better on this thing, but I need to have something out there.
But we made it last night, and it is what it is, and tomorrow's a new day, and the days keep coming.
The days keep coming, and it really does help you not to, I mean, in both ways. Even if you have something really great, like, wow, this thing is awesome, it's only one day.
Don't get attached.
Don't get attached to it. Then you got to make something up for the next day.
And what is awesome, like, we've found that, we may have something that gets, like, a high amount of Instagram likes for us, but we sell one of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
or the other way around, where it's not too many likes and it's...
But it sells really well. But what's really well, too, because we're definitely not making enough money to live off of this project.
Yeah, this project's definitely just kind of paying for itself.
We'll be lucky if it pays for itself by the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of just for fun. But I think there's something to, whether it's dealing with other people's perception of you or even your perception of yourself and what you do, something to, like, that's that non-attachment, and we're kind of desensitizing ourselves to the whole process by doing it over and over and over.
Because we found that the people that are doing really well, like really well in quotes that we see out there. Who knows how they're really doing? Yeah. But they're always prolific. And the only way you can be prolific is they have the same amount of hours in a day is they just churn out a bunch of stuff. I'm sure 9 out of 10 of their things are flops too, but since they make so much work,
yeah,
and that's kind of the mentality we're going with too.
Yeah, it's hard though.
It is very hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah, especially if now that I'm working for myself, I don't have anybody else to answer to other than me. And what is it the work I want to be creating every day? Well, it's not necessarily a design or visual. It's like, or a blog post maybe. I like doing podcasts and I like talking to people. I don't know. So it's hard. I don't have anything right now that I can sit there and think this is my next thing that I'm going to do. And I don't even know if I've got the motivation, if I'm going to be completely honest, to do like 100 thing, like a day, something every single day. Like, I'm just like,
I know. I'm pointing back there. We have this piece saved. It's like in case we don't, we need to quit halfway through.
Yeah,
we have a final piece. I'm not going to say what it is because
it'll ruin the surprise.
If we make it through, it's going to be number 99. But we have it kind of saved just in case because we've been moving this week
and we have our freelance projects. We have eating and living our normal lives,
doing normal people stuff. It's hard.
It's also really cruel too because when we first planned this 100 thing project, we had the weekends off, but because the one we piggyback onto includes the weekends, our lives are blurring together. We have no idea we're like, okay, at least we'll have the weekends to kind of catch up, make a few products if we need to.
But oh my God, but no.
We work Saturday, Sunday.
The project will be over sooner, but it's much harder when you don't have those couple days to catch your breath in between. It's super tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what kind of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to what kind of advice would you give for someone who wants to speak their truth but is afraid of what people are going to say?
Oh my God.
That's tough.
I'm still kind of scared sometimes.
Yeah, I'm always scared. Every time we post up a gram or we post up this, I'm like, oh, it's going to be the last thing we ever do. Or I think that there's always going to be, I don't think there's any way to ever
get over it.
Get over the fear. I think there's always fear. When you put yourself out there, again, going back to that Brene Brown, you're putting yourself out there without your armor, without your brand, without everything. You're kind of embracing that fear. You're kind of saying, okay, I'm putting myself out there. You can do whatever you want to me, but I'm just not gonna care.
Yeah, you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess it takes some guts to do that.
And a little bit of stupidity.
A little bit. I don't know. I think maybe just, accepting that the fear is a natural part of it. It's okay to be scared of
it's definitely part of that process.
Yeah.
I think anyone working for themselves has to be in some way a little masochistic. It's definitely not.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's crazy because our life would be a lot easier.
So much
if
easier.
we had, there's always the struggles with a normal job. I don't want to say have a normal job is the easiest thing in the world because obviously there's lots of struggles with that too. But some people get to go in and then they leave work and they clock out. Our brains are always thinking about work from the moment we wake up, the moment we go to bed. Or sometimes even when I wake up in the middle of the night, I have to write something down okay.
Yeah. Or I wake up oh my God, we have a 24-inch inkjet printer that will not fit through any of the doors into this apartment. And we need to get rid of the studio. So how am I going to sell this thing without losing a ton of money? That's it's the stupidest things to be thinking about. But that's
right.
what we've chosen. So I don't know. It is a little crazy, but
it kind of goes to show that it's not actually what you're doing. It's really it's happening up here in your head, where you can be working a normal job and you still have these issues that you're struggling with: validation, self-worth, doubt, fear.
Yeah.
Or you can be doing independent work. You can be rich and famous, but you still have all those issues that you carry with you through every single project that you do, every opportunity, rise and fall. You deal with it. And so all you can really do is change how you feel inside and change your internal reaction to things.
And some days we'll have a bad reaction. I was cranky this morning. I was in a bad mood this morning because I was have to clean this place up and I have to fix this photo and do all this kind of stuff. And some days, are better than others. And I think just kind of being easy on yourself, saying, you're a human, you're allowed to feel bad. Sometimes you're allowed to feel afraid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just kind of it's just as normal as feeling happy. It's a human emotion. We've got to meet so many amazing people throughout these last 5 years, and not a single person, from the people that are making millions to the people just starting out, have it figured out, are 100% happy, aren't afraid. Like they're all afraid the next day they're going to be done. I know people that have been, people that have been working for 40, 50 years, making tons of money, but they're afraid that the next paycheck will be their last.
Yeah, it never goes away. No one ever has it figured out. And if they tell you that they do, they're lying.
Yeah.
They are lying. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I hate living in that fear, though, of like losing something. It's
I know.
I think you got to detach to the point where you can lose something and it's not going to kill you, or you're not afraid to feel that loss or grief. And I think that's where the fear is feeling that just horrible physical emotion of that. And same thing with speaking your truth, that fear. It's like you're afraid of being unloved or unworthy or somehow invalidated or essentially erased from existence. Like it's a mental death. It's a perceived death that you're approaching, and we may even have past lives of ostracism, being burned at the stake for your beliefs or something like that are really kind of all fueling who you are as a person today. I'm afraid to post this podcast because I talk about white privilege on it. And who am I to talk about that? I mean, I have nothing to say about that other than this is how I feel about that situation. And it just kind of came to light in sort of my journey of self-discovery and who I really am. And I admit I am scared to say that because I'm afraid that people are going to attack me for it and say, who are you to say this type of thing? You idiot, you have so much privilege, get out of here, get off the internet, and it's like, it's just so scary to think about. And it makes other problems seem, it's like we blow it all up in my head because it's like my fear. We all have our unique things that scare us. And so, Jen, Omar, what is the thing that you're afraid to speak that you are holding back? How could you be more authentically you?
Oh, man.
I think one of our biggest things is that so many, especially students, I feel like, but people of all ages, think that we have everything kind of figured out, and that couldn't be even any farther from the truth. Like we're making enough to survive, but it's not like
that's a really good one. I mean, we were giving a talk a couple of weeks ago at a school, and we came to like the Q&A, and at the end someone asked some question like that was like, we had mentioned that we had moved back in my parents' house. That's what it was. And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe that, like, you guys seemed like you had it all together. I can't believe that you
would make a mistake.
Make a mistake like that. And I was like, whoa. Like, let's start over because this whole thing has been
a series of mistakes.
And it's hard. I mean, it's really cool to be recognized for being successful doing something. So it becomes a little scary then to say, not always successful all the time. We don't have it figured out. Yeah, we get emails from people.
And it's tough too, because one of the hardest things is you were kind of talking about you're combining your blog and everything into one kind of unit. And we're one unit too now. And so you say, okay, well, we make a podcast where we talk about failures. What if a client sees us, or what if someone wants to buy something from us and they say, wait, but these guys don't know what they're doing. I'm not going to give them any money. Like, we're always worried about, are we going to share too much? We're going to say too much. All of a sudden, our livelihood's going to go away.
Yeah. It's weird living in that, like, with one, I don't know, projecting one thing out, letting it all be unified. It does add a little bit of fear to it for me because there's not the business side of us and the personal side. It's now all one thing. So they're either going to like you or not. They're not going to like the business part of you and dislike the personal. You know what I mean? It's a package deal now.
And also just a fear that, that nothing is permanent, the good or the bad. Like, I can't sit here and say, oh, look, we've made these pins. We're going to make pins for the next 40 years. We probably, we can make them for the next 4 months. And that's it. Like, just the fear that when we first started this whole project, these are things, we thought it was done. We design a map, you sell it. You design a map, you sell it, and you'll do that.
We thought we'd figured it out.
You can do that till the day we retire, and we'll be happy. It's easy. And now knowing that, next year I could be working, a 9 to 5, or next year we could be super successful doing this, or next year we could be living back in your parents' basement.
I have no idea.
Yeah, to kind of say that, you can't make these kind of plans. So that's one thing somebody asked us too. It was maybe 2 talks ago. They said, how far out do you plan your thing? Do you have like a 6-month plan, 1 year plan, 5-year plan. I said, we're lucky if we have a 1-week plan, and they laugh, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Like, we're lucky if we know what we're doing tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's as far out as we can go, really.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. And you talk about like success and I feel like that's different from happiness, you know?
Yeah.
Like I am tired of success, like, and tired of, cause that's telling you that there's like this right way and this thing, this state where you have got it, you know?
Yeah.
Rather, it's almost like all you have is like right now to feel good about yourself. If you don't feel good about yourself now, even if you do get success, you're still going to feel how you do right now. Like that's the only thing you can do. And so what I want to focus on is self-love and authenticity of just my own integrity and knowing it's like, am I being truly true to myself? Even if that gets me criticism or external doubt and fear and shame put upon me, am I just being true to myself? And everything, even if I do get shamed for something like that, it's like, well, how is that going to help me grow as a person? You know, what is that going to do to me? Like, because it's all, I'm starting to believe that it's all sort of an illusion anyway. It's all a creation of our consciousness, that even the scariest of emotions, it's all part of this dream that we're eventually going to wake up from when we're dead. And we're going to say, that was an awesome roller coaster. like it's scary while you're on it and you're going up the hill, but like, it's just a ride up and down, and both parts of emotions, happiness and failure, are all part of the human experience.
Exactly.
And it's like, so when you can appreciate those bad emotions, if you want to label them bad, if you like can witness how it feels in your body and know that it's here to teach you something, or it's here to help urge you to change or to evolve or adapt, to grow and expand your consciousness, then you'll have a newfound appreciation for it. It's like riding a wave, you know? And to me, that seems a much more interesting way of living my life right now than trying to go find success.
Yeah.
It's almost like success is actually already here. I'm never going to be more successful than I am in this moment, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's
I love that.
Ooh, can I just live that? Can I just feel that relief of not?
It lets you off the hook.
It lets you off the hook, man.
Totally. And then you can just be you. You can do what you want to do. We can make art. You can make art. You can
not make art if you don't want to.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, seriously. You're not invalid
seriously.
because you're not prolific, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Think
It
of all the
doesn't
people
matter.
that don't make art. Think of the people that are like, you know, the people that you would consider not doing glamorous work, or like, you know, like just like a stay-at-home mom, and like, is she somehow invalid because she doesn't have 40,000 Twitter followers?
Exactly.
Right.
Like, it's almost like a relief. It's like I see you and I'm like, you don't have to worry about stupid Twitter followers rising and falling, or I got less likes this week. Like,
Who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. As long as you're happy and you're doing what you want to do.
And what we found too is that it's always so inflated. Like you're saying, it's always so inflated. Most people all people are so busy with their own lives. They have time to make a comment, but they don't think about you more than 1 second of that day.
Yeah.
They don't think about you at all. And it's just,
And that's freeing too.
yeah.
You can
It is
feel like
freeing.
you're on stage for the world to see, but you're really not.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching.
I wonder why we feel like that. Why do we feel like we're on stage for the world to see? Why do we feel so exposed when we're really not? Like, why does our minds try to trick us like that?
Man, probably those few comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The response you're getting, if you extrapolate that out, and you know that the whole world can potentially see it.
Yeah.
That I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a different time, because it used to be, you know, when I made a drawing in high school, no one's going to see that. And now you have to put up there, and, you know, how many people would be able to.
Right. You have to put it up there, or did you really do it? If they don't see it,
Oh, yeah.
did you really do it? I don't know.
Yeah. If I didn't post this picture of my dessert, did I really eat it?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Do I really matter if I didn't share? Oh my gosh, that's another topic.
That is.
We'll see about next time, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm really considering going on a social media like vacation. Like,
That'd be awesome.
What about a 90-day social media fast of like being offline? What would that do? How would that enhance your life or change your life? For you guys, you rely on a lot on like Instagram and stuff. So
You do, yeah.
what would it be like for you?
That'd be so crazy, though. I mean, we're kind of talking about that because at the end of this 100-day project, we have a really big freelance job that we're doing that is actually going to be really fun. But we could technically not do anything else for like a year with this job. So we could technically not ever ever go on there again. I don't know, but that would be weird because I feel like
because it's funny too how quickly everything moves like at light speed now.
Right.
If we're off there for like 2 days, people are like, well, they're
you
dead.
lose that momentum. And if we're still trying to sell stuff, then we do have to show that we're alive and making things. Everyone always wants to see something new, which I don't blame them because I do too.
Yeah, it's always like we're always talking about this too online. I never go to websites unless they're updated like by the time like I go to like Reddit or like a Kotaku or whatever.
So never the same twice.
Never the same. Like it's got to be new, and it's
hard to keep up with as
two people or one person. Yeah,
we're not
impossible.
exactly content creators. We're just two people. Yeah, it's hard, but man, if I could, I would definitely like to do that.
Mm-hmm. And who says maybe
who says maybe we will? Yeah. Ooh, would you do email? You'd have to do email, right?
No, why not?
Or do you? You're not.
Who cares? Who cares? Why would you need to do email? Everything you have is right here in front of you.
Right. It's your rules.
Yeah.
It's your rules. I mean, to think about that, they're like, oh, no email. Oh my God, what would I do? You know, like that's actually an interesting experiment. I'm attracted to that idea of just minimizing to that point, but then it's like terrifying because it's like I'm essentially dying because so much of me lives online.
Right. Exactly.
I even took 1 day digital detox, and I was like freaking out.
Oh my God, really?
And I read 100 pages in a book. No, the Treehouse. Yes, I did do digital detox that weekend, but it was a lot easier because I wasn't surrounded by digital stuff.
Oh yeah.
When I'm sitting at home and I have digital stuff everywhere, and my routine is like, after dinner I like do this, I do this. I'm so much more obsessed with my devices when I'm at home because I'm like just bored in this routine. But when I'm out traveling, I'm so more engrossed in the novelty of this new experience that I can just be present out in nature and feel satisfied. And I have this like aversion to checking my phone because it's like it's just taking me out of this magical moment.
Yeah.
But doing a digital detox at home is really challenging.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
I had to turn off the power or something.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Hide the cords, like put them somewhere else. Yeah. I don't know. That'd be hard.
I remember like I read 100 pages in the book, The Holographic Universe. I finished it. I was just like, I had nothing else to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
We so like gravitate towards doing and entertaining ourselves constantly.
Yeah. With so many different things at once.
Yeah. I was watching Netflix yesterday and I had my phone next to me and I was so like debating, okay, I'm bored by this movie. I really just want to check Reddit. I really want to look at Reddit right now. And I'm just like, no. And then 15 minutes later, the thought would occur to me. Then it was like every few minutes it kept occurring to me. And I'm just being mindful of all of that. And I said, fine, I'm just going to do it. And then I was just on Reddit and I totally forgot about the movie. I'm just like, my focus was going back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's a different talk. So I feel like the energies are kind of winding up here. Is there anything else that you want to share about some of the stuff we've talked about or anything we've left out?
Oh, man.
Well, yeah, I got one thing I can share about usually every so often, especially when we're in kind of a turmoil state, we do a transition state. We do a tarot reading for ourselves, and our last one was so good and so on the money, and it ended with the death card, number 13. Let's see if I can put it up there.
Wow,
oh, there it is.
And it's a cool card, and you receive death as this very negative, very bad thing, but the death in tarot actually talks about for anything new to begin, certain things have to end. It's the end of a phase. It's time for reflection. It's transitions and change are necessary in life. Everything is born, everything dies, and that's true with your feelings. It's true with careers. It's true with human beings. It's true with everything. And so it's so perfect for this time in our life to say, okay, in order to move on and move forward with new stuff, we have to be able to let certain other things die and learn to let go of them, let go of that attachment and know that, it had its life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now it's over.
And as we've let go, it has felt so good that it's been like totally affirming that like this is definitely the right move for us. And
so much turmoil in people's lives stem from when something is dead or dying and you resist it. You say, no, you can't die. This can't end. It has to stay like this forever. And nothing is like that. Nothing's forever.
Yeah, everything's always changing. I think the sooner we can all accept that, the happier we can probably be.
Yeah. it seems like a theme of this episode has been attachment to the old, recreating the magic and resisting change, even though we want change, but we are afraid in a way. Well, tell us where people can find you.
Yes. We are at thesearethings.com, and we're mostly on Instagram at These Are Things, but we're on Twitter also. These Are Things. And who goes on Facebook anymore?
Our parents.
Not me.
You want to join our parents who don't want to like our Facebook post, you can go on Facebook at These Are Things.
Yeah.
All right, great. So, well, thanks so much
Thank you.
for coming on the show. It was awesome, and we got into some good stuff. I mean, just proud that we were able to share so candidly, and I think it's going to make for a good episode. So if anyone's listening, it'd be nice if you left a review on iTunes, to kind of balance out that 1 star we got, if you know what I'm saying. And also get your copy of Wake Up if you're interested in building some habits to kind of change your life into one that's focused more on your own personal growth and mental state within. So you can get that at makermistaker.com/wakeup. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jeff_Finley, and subscribe at makermistaker.com/subscribe. And so that's it for the Maker Mistaker podcast. And Jen, Omar, I will be seeing you guys soon. I was in Columbus last weekend. I'll have to make another visit out there very soon.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We're only 2 hours away.
I know. Basically neighbors.
Basically neighbors. All right. Well, take care, and it was nice talking to you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks Jeff.
So much.
Bye.
Bye.